The crowds are gathering for the fourth Formula Ford race here at Cadwell Park this weekend for the fourth round of the 2017 Historic Formula Ford Championship. And there is our poleman. That's the reigning champion Callum Grant, who's got quite a run of wins going here at Cadwell Park. He won both races last year. He won yesterday, therefore starting on pole today. Nelson Rowe, fresh out of his Formula Ford 2000, about to jump into his Crosley. He'll start alongside on the front row after a great race yesterday. Local driver Ben Tilley, here go off third. It wasn't that long ago he was out in a Formula Junior, so a couple of drivers towards the front here who have been out already today. As has Michael O'Brien. He won in a McLaren in the Classic Racing Cars race earlier on today. He starts fourth. He had no clutch yesterday, so he'll be hoping to move forward today. Sam Mitchell, who led yesterday, slid out wide on the last lap, will start fifth alongside Max Bartel in his first race weekend of the season. Ed Thurston, his first full season of racing, goes off next, seventh alongside former Formula Palmer Audi champion Richard Tarling, championship leader coming into the event. Then we got Dan Eaglin, former British GT racer, then former champion Ben Sims. Next up is James Buckton, who this year is racing a Crosley rather than his Eldon. And then we have Matt Wrigley, who's been going, well, this weekend aboard his Merlin. Neil Shinner is next up. He won the over 50s category yesterday. Then we got Alistair Littlewood. Rob Smith, who's Shinner's rival in that over 50 category, as I mentioned, he's next. And then we've got Roland Svensson. Multiple Formula Ford race winner Stuart Kestenbaum will be next on the grid, P17. And then Finnish racer Pertti Kaveri up next. Robert Tusting in his Lola will be alongside Nigel Grant in a car that's up for sale. Alex Meek is next with Kevin Stanzel in 22nd. Our heat winner from yesterday, Ross Dryber, will start 23rd. But in 24th position will be Cormac Flanagan. Brian Morris, another driver who's just been out in his Formula Ford 25th. Then we got Tim Bryce, 26th, our heat winner from earlier on. Let's see how he won it. The heat for the fourth round of the championship saw James Lovett and Tim Bryce start on the front row. It was the Lola of Lovett that led up towards Coppice Corner, with Bryce tucking underneath and the championship chairman Andrew Mansell in P3. There were great battles throughout the pack, but out front it was at Park Corner that Tim Bryce got the lead away from James Lovett in the race, where the winner would proceed to the championship race later on in the afternoon. John Roberts made a fantastic late braking move at Park Corner. He got a place away from Philip Walker. Great battles up front, three cars battling for the lead there and three cars battling for fifth too. Stephen Greenwood and Roger Arnold had a good dice. Arnold there getting a good run off over the mountain to go through. Mike Wales there diving past John Roberts up into Park Corner. Later on, Roberts chasing him over the mountain, two wheels over the grass to try and get back through. But it was Tim Bryce that came out on top. He beat James Lovett and Andrew Mansell. Let's take a look then how they will line up. The results from yesterday mean that Callum Grant starts on pole alongside Nelson Rowe, the only non-Merling in the top six. Ben Tilley, Michael O'Brien, Sam Mitchell and Max Bartel are those other Merlin drivers. Then we've got Ed Thurston and Richard Tarling, who's out in a Macon for the first time this weekend. Dan Eaglin and Ben Sims complete the top 10, with James Buckton and Matt Wrigley behind. More Merlins from Shinner, Littlewood, Smith and Svensson before the Crosley of Kestenbaum. They've got Kaveri, Tusting, Grant, Meek, Stanzel, Driver at Flanagan, Morris, and then the heat winner, Tim Bryce, that make up the capacity 26 car grid. We can ride on board with Richard Tarling, the former Formula Ford, Formula Vauxhall and Formula Palmer Audi champion. For the start of this one, the lights go out. We're at 8th on the grid for Tarling, and he's made a great start. He's already passing the row in front, which is Max Bartels, who's in the top 6 already, and we haven't even got to the first corner yet. It's side by side up ahead. That's Mitchell going around Tilley, and Tarling's going to try and squeeze through. Yes, he's up to 5th place now. But up front, it's Callum Grant being chased by Nelson Rowe as they go through Charlie's and up, now down the park straight. You see it side by side up front as Rowe goes past Grant to take the lead. Up ahead of Max Bartel, Ed Thurston's past him, and now he's going round the outside of two further cars into Park Corner. Ben Tilley and Richard Tarling they were. Thurston's out wide, he's over the grass now, but he has slotted ahead of Ben Tilley, so a good late braking move there for the Eldon driver, following Richard Tarling up the field on this first lap. Out of the gooseneck, the top four getting away, but as we mentioned, Nelson Rowe passing Callum Grant on the run up towards Park Corner. It's Rowe then that leads the historic Formula Ford race for the first time in a few seasons, as he's been away from the championship. He had a great race yesterday coming through the field. He's already pulling away from Callum Grant, who's in second. He got O'Brien and Mitchell, so it's the Merlins chasing the Crosley of Nelson Rowe. A great sight as they're all on nose-to-tail action over Max Bartel. We can ride on board with now, the driver sponsored by Lancaster Insurance Services. It's putting Ben Tilley under all sorts of pressure heading across the line. He goes to the right hand side of the circuit as Tilley defends the inside, but Bartel carries the momentum from the slipstream to go right round the outside at Coppice Corner, and he goes through. Out the race though for Brian Morris. Up front, out of Charlie's. Rowe has been re-caught by Callum Grant. Grant is using the slipstream now to get closer and closer to Rowe. Rowe defends the inside line, but they don't do anywhere near the corner yet, and Callum Grant has drove past him. So as they turn their way in towards Park Corner, number one, the reigning champion, Callum Grant, leads once more. Third and fourth, Michael O'Brien and Sam Mitchell absolutely with the lead in two then. Through the gooseneck, one of the corner markers goes for a Burton there, and O'Brien challenging Rowe up towards Mansfield, but I don't think he found a way through. Behind you can see Dan Eaglin and Matt Wrigley running almost side by side as well. Four-way battle there being led by Ross Dryborough, but at the mountain it is Grant and Rowe, and they're all coming back to the top four now. Tarling, Thurston, Bartel, Tilley and Sims in that group. Then there's a gap back to James Buckton that leads the next four. Big slide in the next group from Rob Smith. He could have it all back together though for the climb over the mountain. And there is Ross Dryborough ahead of Tim Bryden and Alex Meek. They go down towards Hall Bends as the leaders are at Charlie's. And a big slide there from Ed Thurston. He caught it, but surely Max Bartel is going to be able to drive past him on the run up towards Park Corner. And yes, you can see there side by side. It's side by side for third as well though, because Sam Mitchell's going down the inside to pass Michael O'Brien, and he does it, so he's up to P3 is Sam Mitchell. Meanwhile, a bit further back, Rob Smith is challenging Stuart Kestenbaum into Park Corner. He squeezes up there to gain the position. Out of the gooseneck, the top two getting away now as they battle for third. A big slide from Mitchell. As for Richard Tarling in fifth place, see Ben Sims looking down the inside of Ben Tilley. All action in the start of this one. 20-minute race here at Cadwell Park. It's a tricky circuit to pass on, but you wouldn't have thought it watching this race. Grant and Rowe then with this gap back to Mitchell, O'Brien and Tarling. Then there's a gap to Bartel, Thurston, Tilley and a very sideways Sims. Then we've got Buckton, Eaglin and Wrigley into Hall Bends. So let's ride on board with Ben Sims. It's Tilley up ahead who's really trying to find a way past Thurston. He got really sideways there, but he's turned it that into a dive up the inside into the hairpin. A great move from Ben Tilley to go ahead of Ed Thurston. He was looking all around him to try and find a way through, and he did fantastically well there to do it. Side by side for the lead into Coppice Corner, and it's round the outside for Nelson Rowe to repass Callum Grant. Meanwhile, Ed Thurston is going back down the inside of Ben Tilley, and he gets that position. So it was about one corner that Tilley had that place for before Thurston retook it. Sam Mitchell checking his mirrors because Michael O'Brien is chasing him up towards Park Corner. But Nelson Rowe, who's had the lead for a couple of turns, sees Callum Grant go down the inside. Grant couldn't find a way through, but Rowe slow on the exit the corner. Problems there for Nelson Rowe race leaders. That means Callum Grant now leads. In a second position, Sam Mitchell. Third is O'Brien and fourth is Tarling. So what's happened to Nelson Rowe here? You see Ben Sims out over the grass. There is Rowe chasing Shinner down the hill. So real dramas for Nelson Rowe coming out of park. So it's 4 for the lead. Grant, Mitchell, O'Brien and Tarling. Then we've got Bartel, who's made a gap to Thurston and Tilley. Then you've got Sims leading the next cars through. And now Nelson Rowe's already got past Neil Shinner, so whatever that issue was out of park corner, he's sorted it and he's back on the pace. Deep breath we can take now, because this opening 5 minutes or so of this race has been real breathless action, and I don't think it's over yet, because Sam Mitchell right on the tail of the race leader as they go out of Charlie onto the park straight. He is slipstreaming Callum Grant now up the hill. He's getting closer and closer to him as the slipstream continues to work down the straight, but Grant is defending the inside, so Mitchell has to go to the outside, the left hand side of the circuit, and the inside therefore for Grant keeps him ahead. Meanwhile, Ben Tilley is going to go back past Ed Thurston. He slips down the inside at park corner, and now Ben Sims tries to capitalise on that into Chris Curve. He can't find a way past the Alden though. It's a Jomo for Sims, it's a Merlin for Tilley that leads this group into the gooseneck. They plummet down the hill into Mansfield, hard on the brakes here to get the car turned into the left-hander. Heaps of oversteer there for Sims. Gathers it all together though, leaders into the mountain with the lead-in 4 absolutely together. So much experience and speed in the leading dozen or so in this race, actually speed all the way through the grid, but particularly from the front runners, and you can see it in the exciting racing we have this season in historic Formula Ford. Very few championships can boast to having racing as close as this, with as frequent passing at Cadwell Park. And we can see more side-by-side action. It's Ed first on the inside and Ben Sims trying to squeeze around the outside. He couldn't find a way through there though. Now with Richard Tarling just starting to drop off the top 3 again. It looks that way, doesn't it? O'Brien trying to cling on to the top 2. Mitchell and Grant seem to have the pace in this one. It's Grant defending the inside. Of course, once they start battling like this, it's to bring O'Brien and Tarling back into it. With an 8-car scrap yesterday for the race victory, how many can we get up front today? Into the gooseneck. Well, it's Grant ahead of Mitchell. There's O'Brien getting back towards them again. Bartel there in P5. He's ahead of Tilley. There he's sideways as Sims as he really gets onto terms with Ed Thurston. Let's ride on board with Sims coming out of Mansfield, and he's got to run on Thurston. Is there room to squeeze down the inside of the mountain? He's alongside here. Very late on the brakes in Thurston. Nobody's run out wide, so that's going to compromise his line over the mountain. So Ben Sims does the switch back, and now he's on the inside down towards Hull Bends, and there's no way on the outside to fight that really. So Sims is through. He's got the place. Down towards Barn Corner for the race leaders. It's number 1, Callum Grant, that leads car 40, Sam Mitchell. Both these drivers are former champions. Up across the line, Mitchell in the slipstream, getting closer and closer to Callum Grant. He pulls out of the toe to go round the outside at Coppy's corner. He's nosing ahead, he's got ahead. He slides a bit wide, he hits the grass, and that snaps the car into a big spin. And Sam Mitchell goes rotating therefore, and he's out of contention for this one now, and that has brought Richard Tarling up towards the top 2, as both Grant and O'Brien had to get out of the throttle not to collect the lead-in spinner. Now, what can Tarling do about O'Brien? He goes to the left-hand side of him. These 2 drivers were battling for the win in the wet at Silverstone, and now they're battling for second place here at Cadwell Park, and Tarling looking to the inside but had to back out of that. Both these drivers have raced in contemporary single-seater racing and have won. Here's Alistair Littlewood coming through Charlie. He's on the tail of Neil Shinner. He's getting the slipstream down the park straight, and he's going to squeeze up on the inside. There's not a huge amount of room to do that, but Shinner allows him space, and down the inside Littlewood will go through. So there's our leader, that's Callum Grant. Michael O'Brien and Richard Tarling battling for second. Grant definitely getting away though. Max Bartelli's 4th, ahead of Ben Tilley in 5th. 6th is Sims, Then Sam Mitchell is in 7th after that spin. Ed Thurston under pressure from the recovering Nelson Rowe. This has been a great recovery. Driving on the inside into Hall Bend. He can't make that work. Thurston slides across the grass. The Rowe does go ahead, or does he? Because he goes out of shot all over the grass. That was a bit of dramatic action. Here is more battling. This is Robert Tusting up ahead of Percy Kaveri. Kaveri looking to the inside into Hall Bend. Can't quite carry enough momentum to do that though. Grant continues to pull away. It's O'Brien in 2nd and Tarling in 3rd. There's Sam Mitchell, he's 7th, and Nelson Rowe did get 8th place away from Ed Thurston, who's got Dan Eaglin and Matt Wrigley chasing him. Out over the grass for Richard Tarling as a huge bumpy ride down the hill. He recovered, but then he runs out wide out of Mansfield, and that's going to allow Max Bartel to go ahead. So Bartel onto the podium. There's the top 2. They're well ahead now after that huge moment down the hill for Richard Tarling as the car bumped and bounced over the grass. Now Dan Eagley, you can see, has got ahead of Ed Thurston, and Matt Wrigley chasing Thurston now. But let's go back on board with Richard Tarling as he tries to repass Max Bartel. So Bartel in 3rd, 4th is Tarling, Tarling in the tow, and now he will pull out of the slipstream and will pass Max Bartel up towards Coppice Corner. Bartel just has to back out. That's slightly a big old twitch so in the middle of the corner for Tarling. He gathers it back together and he continues to run 3rd. Oh, Bartel out wide over the grass, so that's going to lose him momentum. And that is allowing Ben Tilley to look to the inside, but with the tow off the car ahead, Bartel therefore being able to pull ahead of Tilley once more. The make-on of Richard Tarling now is today's car to be amongst the massive Merlins we have at the head of the field here at Cadwell Park. It was Nelson Rowe yesterday, and he was doing so earlier before that issue. Through the gooseneck for this battle for 3rd. Tarling trying to make a gap once more to Bartel. Bartel carrying better speed though through Mansfield. Meanwhile, here is our race leader, Callum Grant, 2nd, Michael O'Brien, both having lonely 2nd part of the race. You wouldn't have thought so with how dramatic the first part was. There's Tarling then, 2nd in this group is Bartel. Then got Tilley, then the Jomo of Sims, then we've got the Crosley of Rowe, the Lotus of Eaglin, so that's a better multi-mark battle. What we got further back, well there's Alistair Littlewood ahead of Neil Shinner, and a sideways Rob Smith. Gap back, who's going to be through next? Well that would be Roland Svensson, who has got Robert Tusting and Perty Kaveri closing up to him, so that's another 3-way tussle. Kaveri has a good run over the top of the mountain. He looks to the inside of Tusting, but no way through there. Here's Kevin Stanzel, who's having a battle with Ross Dryborough, Crosley and Merlin, that is. Race leader, Callum Grant turns through Charlie's as O'Brien tries everything to get onto terms with him. There's the battle for 3rd, Tarling. Bartel and Tilley absolutely together. Ed Thurston now has fallen behind Matt Wrigley by the looks of things, but falling behind Richard Tarling, even he's falling behind Max Bartel as Bartel goes around the outside into Park Corner and he grabs 3rd spot. Can Tarling do anything to get back ahead of Bartel then? Tarling continue to chase Bartel then, who at the next round will be driving 3 different cars at Brands Hatch. He'll be racing this Formula Ford as well as an Alba sports car and a Formula 3. But here at Cadwell Park, Bartel driving just to 1 car and staying up ahead in his Merlin, the car sponsored by Lancaster Insurance Services. Littlewood, Shinner and Smith go over the top of the mountain down towards Hall Bend. Great part of the track that. And behind you've got the Svensson, Tusting and Kaveri battle that continues. Down towards the hairpin. Smith looking to the inside. We had a big look up there as the circuit goes off camber, and that's lost him time. However, Kevin Stansel is coming up towards the mountain, and the car ahead turns left. That goes to the paddock. So an issue for another car in this one. It's the final lap of the race, and it's all go for the battle for fourth. It's Tarling with Tilly looking to the outside and Sims seeing if there's room to make it free wide, but it certainly is not enough room for that, so he backs out of it and sees what goes on. He squeezes up the inside of Tilly, who can't find a way around the outside of Tarling through Chris Curve. Who's got the momentum here? Tilly ever so slightly to stay ahead of Sims. Here's Alistair Littlewood, who's being chased by Neil Shinner. Remember, this has been a good race-long battle, and Shinner is going to slipstream past on the crucial final lap. A great bit of opportunist driving there. Last lap, the important one, and he's made it work to go through. However, driver that not had anyone to battle with in the second part of this race ever since Sam Mitchell attempted to go around the outside and spun. Callum Grant has had a lonely race. But it's going to be yet another victory here at Cadwell Park for the reigning champion. And now, the current championship leader in the 50th anniversary of Formula Ford. It's Callum Grant that wins yet again here in Lincolnshire at the HSCC World's Trophy. And therefore winning the Rob Fowler Trophy. This race was contested for Callum Grant. Absolutely delighted with that. Big thumbs up to the marshals, who have had to work in sweltering conditions all weekend here at Cadwell Park. Great weather it has been, but very hot work for the marshals out there. Let's have a look at the result then. It was a 4-second victory for Callum Grant, the biggest winning margin so far of 2017. It was Michael O'Brien that took second. Max Bartel won that good battle for third. That featured Richard Tarling, Ben Tilley, Ben Sims and Nelson Rowe. Those 5 cars separated by just 1.5 seconds at the flag, with Sam Mitchell, who finished 8th in the end. Dan Eaglin took 9th ahead of Matt Wrigley, who had a good weekend. Ed Thurston dropped to 11th. He ran high early on. Neil Shinner, Alistair Littlewood, Rob Smith, Roland Svensson, Robert Tusting, Perty Kaviri, Kevin Stansel, Ross Driver and Tim Bryce completed the 20 cars. Callum Grant now getting big congratulations from his team and family. Next up, we will be at Brands Hatch. 4 more races as we celebrate the 50th anniversary for the Formula Ford 1600 category. We'll be on the Grand Prix circuit then.